Chosen one. Stop for a moment. Heaven itself just laughed because of what you did today. You thought it was small, a decision so simple it almost slipped past your awareness. But while you walked through your ordinary day, heaven saw something extraordinary: obedience in motion, the kind of obedience that makes the Father rise from his throne, smile, and say, "That one knows me." You didn't see angels lean in when you made that quiet choice. You didn't hear the rustle of their wings when you refused to compromise, when you chose integrity over comfort, peace over pride, faith over fear. But heaven did. The laughter of God is not mockery, it's victory. It's the sound of light pushing darkness back another step because you refuse to bow. Beloved, there are moments when you think, does it even matter? But listen carefully, what you did today did matter. Every act of faithfulness counts in the unseen war. Every time you choose love instead of revenge. Every time you speak truth when silence would be easier. Heaven writes it down. The King of Glory notices. He laughs because his plan is unfolding right through you. That small decision was not a coincidence. It was divine choreography. When you held your tongue instead of striking back, heaven saw restraint that silenced demons. When you whispered, "I forgive," you released a sound that shattered chains. When you prayed, even though you felt nothing, you opened the heavens above your home. There is something about your obedience that confuses the enemy. Hell expects you to quit. Darkness bets on your surrender. But today, you broke pattern. You didn't collapse under the pressure. You didn't allow bitterness to take root. You acted like the child of a king, and that's why heaven laughed. You may not realize it yet, but your obedience today closed a door that's been open too long. It shut the mouth of accusation. It shifted something in the atmosphere. The devil cannot stand a believer who stays faithful when nobody's watching, because that's when real power grows, in the hidden moments. You've been walking through battles that no one else can see. The nights when you cried and still prayed. The mornings you woke up weary but chose to believe again. Those unseen choices built a fortress around your soul. That's why today's act, that one moment of doing right when it was easier to do wrong, became a trumpet blast in the spirit realm. And heaven laughed, not because he takes lightly your struggle, but because victory was assured from the beginning. When God laughs, it is a sound of authority. It means every demonic plan has already failed. It means your enemy's threats are powerless. It means his word has prevailed again through one obedient heart, yours. The angels rejoiced because you stood your ground. You didn't need a stage or applause. You didn't need anyone to notice. God noticed, and the ripple of that obedience will travel farther than you know. Listen, you are not invisible to heaven. Your smallest decision for righteousness moves the heart of God. And right now, his laughter is filling the courts of heaven as he declares, "My child chose me again." As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 4, "The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them." He laughs, not at you, but for you, because victory has already been written into your story. The very thing that tried to break you became the stage where God showed his strength. You have felt its movement in moments of worship, in tears that made no sense, in dreams that seemed too real to be coincidence. Every time you felt the atmosphere shift when you prayed, that was it, stirring. Every time you walked into a room and the energy changed. That was it radiating. The world may call it intuition or energy, but heaven calls it your divine weapon, the inheritance of the chosen. So here's what you must do now. Chosen one, hold on to that awareness. Heaven is watching. The war is real, but the outcome is already sealed in joy. Every time you choose light, the throne room erupts again in laughter. If this message reaches deep into your spirit, let it be known. Type 111 inches, the comments, as a prophetic act, a sign that you recognize heaven's laughter over your obedience. And before you scroll away, take a moment, like, share, and subscribe, not out of habit, but as an act of alignment. When you share the message of light, you spread heaven's laughter further into the world. The heavens are rejoicing. Chosen one, what you did today just made God laugh in victory, and the sound of that laughter will follow you into tomorrow. Chosen one, you didn't know it, but something invisible shifted when you acted today. Heaven saw a hidden act, one that looked ordinary but carried the scent of eternity. You didn't preach a sermon or perform a miracle. You simply obeyed in silence. And that obedience moved heaven's hand. Sometimes you think that only the loud, public acts of faith catch God's attention. But the truth is this: it's in the quiet moments, the ones you think no one sees, where heaven's eyes are fixed most closely. The unseen acts, the prayer whispered through tears, the kindness given when your heart was aching, the moment you refused to gossip when you easily could have. Those are the movements that rearrange atmospheres. When you made that small choice today, a chain reaction began. A ripple went out from your spirit, carrying light into spaces you don't even know exist. Angels are not only dispatched by loud declarations of faith, but also by the still, quiet obedience of the faithful. You became a carrier of divine frequency, a signal of loyalty that resonated through unseen realms. Beloved, don't underestimate the power of your small yes. The world teaches that greatness is measured by visibility, but heaven measures greatness by obedience. You didn't need an audience for this one. God was your witness. When you decided to walk in love instead of revenge, when you blessed instead of cursed, you unknowingly gave heaven a reason to celebrate again. Do you understand how rare that is? To choose right when no one is watching, to bless someone who hurt you. That kind of decision is what turns simple dust into gold. The spiritual realm takes notice when a chosen one operates in quiet righteousness. The fragrance of your act rises like incense before God, and He calls it worship. You see, the act itself was not just a kind gesture, it was warfare disguised as mercy. The enemy expected you to react in bitterness, to mirror the pain you received. But instead, you responded with grace, and that one act, invisible to others, became visible to heaven. You broke a chain that had lingered for generations, a silent war fought and won without a sword. When the Lord looks upon the earth, He doesn't just look for grand movements or mighty nations. He looks for hearts like yours, willing, surrendered it, still soft after being broken. You've been through too much to act out of pride anymore. You've learned that real power is not loud, it's steady. Chosen one, heaven has always worked through hidden things, seeds buried in soil, prayers whispered in secret, obedience practiced in silence. The same power that raised Lazarus was the same power that stirred when you chose compassion today. The same spirit that hovered over the waters at creation moved when you said, I forgive. Empty. The hidden act you did today, it may have been as simple as holding the door, offering encouragement, restraining anger, or releasing offense, was not small to heaven. It carried prophetic weight. It echoed into tomorrow. And somewhere, someone's heart felt lighter because you were obedient to the gentle nudge of God's Spirit. Heaven recorded it. The angels documented it. And the enemy hates it, because every act of love weakens his grip. Every choice of humility defeats his pride. You may not have seen light breaking through the clouds, but the shift was real. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 10. I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct. Their deeds deserve. Your deed did not vanish into obscurity. It is written into heaven's record as proof that light still rules in dark places. The Lord himself examined your heart today and smiled. He saw your restraint, your purity of intention, your willingness to do what was right when it would have been easier to turn away. Even the smallest decision done in love multiplies. Your one act may unlock hope in someone you'll never meet. God weaves obedience into destiny. He takes one thread of kindness and uses it to mend another soul's broken fabric. That is how he works, quietly, intricately, powerfully. So tonight, when you lie down, I don't think your day was wasted. Heaven was watching. Heaven was recording. Heaven was rejoicing. That single, hidden act you thought no one would notice became a proclamation of victory in the unseen realm. And tomorrow, when you wake, remember this: you are never operating alone. Every moment of obedience creates momentum. Every choice for good pushes back the storm. The hidden act that shifted atmospheres today was not the end. It was the beginning of a new alignment between you and heaven's design. You didn't see it, chosen one, but while you were busy just trying to make it through the day, hell trembled. You woke up, carried your burden, whispered a prayer, and thought nothing special had happened. But in the spirit realm, alarms went off. The kingdom of darkness recognized something terrifying. You still believe. You see, the enemy doesn't fear talent, wealth, or titles. What he fears is persistence, a believer who refuses to surrender even after everything falls apart. You got out of bed. You kept faith. You still praised, even with tears in your eyes. That was enough to shake the ground beneath hell's foundations. Every time you choose faith over fear, light over bitterness, prayer over complaint, the enemy's plans crumble. Demons thrive in despair. But when you choose hope, their assignments collapse. Today, without realizing it, you caused confusion in the camp of darkness. The enemy tried to make you feel invisible. He tried to convince you that your prayers were empty, that your obedience was useless, that your purpose was lost. But when you decided to believe anyway, when you said, "I will trust God even here," something broke. The darkness recoiled. Hell trembles not because of who you are in the natural, but because of who you are in the spirit, marked, sealed, and chosen. You carry heaven's authority. Even when you feel weak, you walk through the same world as everyone else. But the atmosphere shifts when you enter a room. You carry light that cannot be extinguished. And that terrifies the enemy. Chosen one, remember this: Every test you've endured, every season of waiting, has only made your light more dangerous to darkness. You've been refined, not ruined. You've been stretched, not broken. What the enemy meant for destruction became your training ground for dominion. When you prayed through pain, hell trembled. When you forgave, instead of retaliating, hell trembled. When you stood up after being knocked down, hell trembled again. You are not just surviving, you are disrupting demonic agendas by simply staying faithful. And though the enemy roars, his roar is hollow. He cannot undo what God has written. Heaven's decree over you is sealed in fire. You are a walking contradiction to hell's expectations, the wounded one who still worships, the rejected one who still loves, the broken one who still believes. As the apostle reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. This is why you cannot quit, even when you feel unseen. The fight isn't physical, it's spiritual. Your endurance is a weapon. Your worship is warfare. Your continued faith is a declaration that no matter what the enemy does, heaven will always have the final word. Understand this, hell isn't trembling because you shouted. It's trembling because you didn't give up. The enemy planned to silence your song, but you kept singing. He planned to break your spirit, but you kept believing. Every time you whisper the name of Jesus, light splits the darkness. Every time you choose peace instead of revenge, angels draw their swords. And here's the truth that shakes every demon. Your obedience today is just the beginning. Heaven is raising you up as a living reminder that the light always wins. You are walking proof that grace is stronger than sin, that mercy outruns judgment, and that love never fails. So when the nights are long and the silence feels endless, remember you are not fighting alone. Heaven backs you. The roar of the Lion of Judah stands behind every word you speak in faith, even when you can't see it. Your persistence sends tremors through the kingdom of darkness. Don't let discouragement make you forget who you are. The enemy trembles not because you're perfect, but because you're chosen, and every time you rise again, he's reminded that he already lost. So, if this truth stirs something deep inside you, make a declaration now. Comment, "Light wins." Let it not be just words, but a statement of defiance against every dark whisper that tried to make you give up. Write it as a reminder to your own soul that light always wins in you, around you, and through you. Hell trembled today, not because you shouted, but because you stayed faithful. Heaven noticed. The war is shifting, and your endurance is echoing through eternity. There was a moment today, chosen one, when you almost gave up. You felt the weight pressing harder than before, the familiar voice whispering, "What's the point?" Heaven watched that moment in silence. The angels leaned in. The air stood still, and even creation seemed to wait for your next breath. Would you give in to the heaviness, or would you rise once more? And you rose. Maybe not with confidence, maybe not with joy, but with a weary, trembling faith that said, "I'm still here." You didn't know it, but that one decision caused heaven to erupt again. The moment you chose to keep moving, despite the pain, became God's victory. Cry. Heaven doesn't celebrate perfection. Heaven celebrates perseverance. The Father does not wait for you to be flawless before He smiles. He rejoices when you choose Him again, even in the middle of doubt. The very moment when you whispered, "I can't," but still took one more step, was the moment you stepped into divine strength. There is something sacred about refusing to quit. You may have felt invisible in your struggle, but heaven saw your endurance. Every tear you've cried has been counted. Every breath you've taken under pressure has been seen. Your pain did not go unnoticed. Do you know what happens when a chosen one keeps standing? The enemy's accusations lose power. The doubts that once screamed begin to fade. The very storms meant to break you become platforms of divine revelation. God uses the weight of resistance to prove the strength He planted in you. You might not have realized it, but that breaking point was also a birthing point. God never allows you to come to the end of yourself without preparing resurrection on the other side. You reached your limit, and that's exactly where His limitless grace began to move. When you nearly gave up, you were standing on holy ground, because surrendering to Him, even in weakness, is worship. The Father doesn't need your strength to prove His power. He needs your willingness to keep trusting Him when you can't see the end. There's a reason your heart still beats after everything you've faced. There's a reason you didn't lose your mind in that storm. It's because heaven has written too much into your story for it to end in despair. You have been preserved for purpose, protected through pain, and positioned for divine manifestation. You've walked through nights when sleep wouldn't come, through seasons when even prayer felt like an empty echo. But what you didn't see was how those silent moments were shaping you into something unbreakable. The Father was not absent. He was training your spirit to recognize His voice, even when your world was shaking. The most powerful faith isn't loud or dramatic. It's the kind that whispers yes while trembling, that believes even with unanswered prayers, that hopes when everything screams hopeless. That kind of faith is what shakes hell and moves heaven. And today, you showed that kind of faith again. You thought you barely made it through, but heaven saw a warrior who refused to bow. You didn't fail. You prevailed. Every time you rise after falling, you are testifying that grace is stronger than despair. Every time you refuse to quit, the throne room echoes with a sound only heaven can hear: victory. The ancient words recorded in Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10 declare, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." These words aren't just comfort, they are a divine decree. God Himself has taken hold of you, and that's why you keep getting back up. You are not held by your willpower, but by His hand. The same hand that shaped galaxies steadies you when you tremble. The same voice that spoke light into darkness whispers your name when you're close to breaking. Chosen one. Don't despise your moments of weakness. They are sacred invitations to lean deeper into God's strength. The breaking of your plans is the revealing of His purpose. You are not disqualified by your doubts. You are being refined through them. You thought the silence meant He was gone. But silence is often the sound of heaven preparing your next chapter. When you almost gave up, you actually gave God space to step in. He waits at the edge of your exhaustion, ready to prove that His power is made perfect in your weakness. So hold this truth tightly. Your endurance is worship. Your perseverance is praise. Heaven does not measure success the way earth does it, measures surrender. And today, when you almost quit but didn't. You offered heaven one of the purest forms of worship it can receive, faith that still stands after the storm. Heaven saw you. The angels watched. The Father smiled. And somewhere in the unseen realm, the sound of your "I'll keep going" became another anthem of victory echoing through eternity. You thought it was just another hard day. Chosen won another test. Another small struggle in the endless list of battles you've faced. But heaven saw more. The test you passed today wasn't about success or failure in the world's eyes. It was about whether your heart would still mirror His. You didn't know you were being watched by heaven. You didn't realize that the way you reacted, the way you stayed calm, the way you didn't lash out, the way you chose patience instead of anger, was being measured, not to condemn you, but to confirm you. You passed a test no one even knew existed. You thought it was an inconvenience, that delay, that frustration, that sudden disappointment. But heaven had orchestrated it to see if you would still carry grace when pressed, still shine when the light of others dimmed. And you did. The test wasn't about proving God's love for you. It was about proving your readiness to carry what He's been preparing for you. Because promotion in heaven doesn't come through applause, it comes through restraint. The crown you're about to wear was formed from moments when you could have reacted, but instead, you reflected His nature. You see, passing a divine test doesn't look dramatic. It looks like biting your tongue when you could have defended yourself. It looks like choosing to forgive before the apology comes. It looks like refusing to let bitterness plant roots in your soil. It looks like silence when the world demands noise, and peace when chaos provokes you to fight. Heaven clapped quietly today. The same angels who watched you cry in secret now witnessed your quiet victory. You may not have heard trumpets, but you should know something ancient was just broken off your life. That cycle that used to repeat the anger, the reaction, the regret, it ended today when you passed the unseen test. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 9, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." When you chose peace instead of rage, you didn't just protect your heart, you revealed your lineage. You acted like your Father. The world might call it weakness, but heaven calls it dominion. Because real power isn't about controlling others, it's about mastering your own spirit. Think of a river, strong yet silent, flowing past rocks that would stop weaker streams. That's what you did today. You flowed. You refused to let offense become a dam. And because of that, God can now trust you with deeper waters. Maybe no one saw what happened, but your spirit knows something shifted. You walked through a moment that could have defined you by pain, but instead, you let it refine you by grace. And that's how chosen ones ascend, not in moments of public glory, but in private victories. You've been carrying so much, walking through storms that would have drowned others. And yet, you kept walking. You held your peace like a lamp through the night. And that light is what will guide others who come behind you. Chosen one. If these words resonate deep within you, if you can feel heaven's quiet nod as you read this, then know this. What you did today wasn't small. It was eternal. And because you are part of something sacred, I want to invite you to keep this river flowing. When you share these messages, it's not just a click or a gesture, it's you pouring living water into someone else's dry place. When you subscribe, You're anchoring yourself to a stream of truth that will keep washing your soul clean. And if your heart ever feels led to support this mission, to help the message reach further, to touch souls that are still wandering, your act of giving becomes like planting seeds by the riverbank. Every drop you pour out returns, multiplied, watering someone else's hope, not out of pressure, but out of purpose. Because this isn't about a platform, it's about people. Like, share, subscribe, or donate only if your heart whispers, yes, this is home. That's how the kingdom grows, not by force, but by flow, just like the river that never asks the earth's permission to move. You don't need to be loud to make an impact. Just be consistent. Your obedience, your generosity, your listening heart, these are all part of the same current of grace that heaven celebrates. You passed the unseen test, and now you're flowing in divine rhythm. So breathe, rest. You've proven to heaven that you can carry peace even when surrounded by noise. And that is why new doors will open, because peace is heaven's password. And you've just spoken it fluently. Chosen one. Listen carefully. What you thought was pain has become proof. God never wastes a wound. And what once broke you has now become the very sign that He is alive in you. Every scar tells a story. Every tear has been translated into testimony. And every ache has turned into authority. You've been through valleys so deep that no one else could follow you there. You've carried burdens that others would have dropped long ago. Yet here you are, breathing, believing, and still walking. That's not weakness, that's divine endurance. The very thing the enemy thought would destroy you has now become the stage upon which God reveals His glory. Heaven did not overlook your pain. It was never random. The moments that left you trembling in the dark were the same moments when heaven whispered, "Watch what I'll do with this." You were not being punished, you were being purified. Pain stripped away everything false so that what remains is only what's real. Faith that cannot be shaken. Sometimes the fire doesn't come to burn you down, but to burn away the weight that kept you bound. And chosen one. That's what happened. The fire you walked through refined you. You lost some things. Yes. But you also gained something priceless. The proof of God's presence. And though your pain was real, so was His plan. Every delay, every disappointment, every betrayal, they were all divine ingredients in a greater recipe of glory. You thought the wound disqualified you, but it became your qualification. Because people may listen to your words, but they will believe your wounds. The scars prove that grace is real. Chosen one. God turned your pain into proof that He is still writing. Proof that the story isn't over. Proof that His power is greater than any loss you've endured. The place that once hurt you most has now become the well from which others will drink hope. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. The Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Those words aren't just comfort, they are covenant. When He said He would never leave, He meant it. Even in your lowest moments, even when you couldn't feel Him, He was closer than your breath, shaping the pain into purpose. Think of gold, raw, dull, hidden under layers of earth. It must go through fire before it shines. That's what you went through. You thought the heat meant destruction, but it was purification. You thought it was punishment, but it was preparation. And now, the same fire that once scared you has become your light. Look at how far you've come. The things that used to break you no longer have the same power. You speak differently. You see differently. You walk differently. That's what transformation looks like. God didn't just deliver you from pain. He delivered you through it so you could carry healing in your hands. And now, when others come to you with their stories of suffering, you will recognize the language of pain. You'll speak life to them, not from theory, but from experience. You'll become the voice that says, I know it hurts, but I also know there's purpose in it. Lovely. Your pain has become a prophecy. Every scar on your heart is heaven's signature saying, this one overcame. You may not have seen the outcome yet, but heaven already has. And the laughter of God, that began in section 1, it echoes here again. Softer now, deeper, because what once hurt you has been redeemed. Beloved, don't run from your story. Don't hide the parts that still ache. The world doesn't need perfection, it needs authenticity. Show them the scars, not as wounds, but as witness. You are proof that resurrection is not just for the grave, it happens in hearts every single day. And if your spirit bears witness right now, if you can feel the truth of this vibrating inside you, then mark this moment in heaven's language. Comment 444 below. That number carries prophetic weight, a reminder of divine stability, of foundations being rebuilt, of the presence of God surrounding you on every side. Write it as a declaration. Not for me, but for yourself. I am proof. Your pain is no longer a prison, it's a platform. The ashes are no longer reminders of loss, they're signs of the beauty that's emerging, and heaven watches, smiling, as you finally see what it saw all along, that even your pain was working for your good. You are not the same person who entered the fire. You came out carrying light. And now, every time you tell your story, the flames that once tried to destroy you will have to bow, because the proof of your survival is louder than the memory of your suffering. Heaven took note. Chosen one. The act you thought no one saw, the quiet decision, the whispered prayer. The small but costly obedience was recorded in the eternal archives of heaven. You may have brushed it off as insignificant, but the angels didn't. Every detail of that moment has been written down as testimony, stored not in ink, but in light. You live in a world that only notices loud victories, public success, visible applause. But the kingdom sees differently. Heaven measures faith in the dark, where no spotlight shines. It celebrates the faith that endures without reward, the kindness that flows without acknowledgement, the humility that chooses silence over pride. And today, that's exactly what you displayed. When you chose the quiet path, the one no one claps for, heaven documented it. It wasn't a random act, it was prophetic obedience. Your unseen gesture became a line in your eternal story, a divine entry in the ledger of the faithful. You see, the record-keeping of heaven isn't like Earth's. Here, people forget. There, nothing done in love is ever lost. Every sigh, every sacrifice, every step toward righteousness is recorded with precision, not as evidence against you, but as evidence for you, proof that you walked faithfully, even when the road was invisible. And when you get weary, when you think it's pointless, remember this: the archive of heaven grows thicker with every quiet yes. The pages tell your story, not one of perfection, but of persistence. They tell how you kept forgiving, how you kept believing, how you refused to harden your heart when betrayal pressed in. Your name, chosen one, is not scribbled in pencil that fades. It's engraved into the book of remembrance. It's written by a hand that never forgets. The ink of your obedience shines brighter than gold in that celestial record. The Word of God declares in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 16, "Then those who feared the Lord talked with each other, and the Lord listened and heard." A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. There it is, heaven's confirmation that nothing escapes his attention. Even your smallest conversation, your smallest choice to honor him, has been recorded. When you encouraged someone today, when you prayed for a stranger, when you resisted temptation, heaven listened. Heaven heard. Heaven wrote it down. You've been writing history with heaven and didn't even know it. Every act of obedience becomes a seed sown into eternity. The fruit may not appear immediately, but the harvest will come. You might not see it in this life, but heaven's timeline is longer than time itself. And in that record, your story stands as a monument of grace. You've been through losses, disappointments, heartbreaks, yet you never stopped believing that God is good. That kind of faith is worth more than all the treasures of earth combined. When angels read your record, they don't see failure. They see perseverance. They see divine fingerprints in human weakness. They see how mercy kept catching you when you stumbled. They see how love kept pulling you toward light when shadows tried to claim you. Chosen one, you may not have known it, but today's obedience wrote a new chapter. Heaven turned the page and smiled, because you didn't let fatigue win. You didn't let frustration close your mouth. You chose faith again, and the scroll of remembrance grew longer because of it. There will come a day when you stand before the author of it all, and he will open that record, and he won't list your mistakes. He'll highlight your endurance. He'll show you how every small act fit perfectly into his master design. You'll see the golden thread of purpose weaving through every dark fabric of your life. What you did today might seem small, but in heaven's book, it's eternal ink. Every choice of love has cosmic weight. Every whisper of worship shifts dimensions. That's how much your life matters in the unseen realm. So continue walking quietly in faith. Chosen one, the world may not applaud, but heaven does. Every time you say yes to God, the scroll continues. Every act becomes a testimony that light still rules the darkness. And one day, when you see that record with your own eyes, you'll understand why heaven smiled so often when you didn't even notice. For what you wrote today in love, in obedience, in humility was not forgotten. It was recorded forever. Something ancient shifted today. Chosen one, you didn't see it with your eyes, but heaven did. When you chose differently, when you made that small decision that broke the pattern of your past, a chain snapped in the spirit. The same pattern that bound your family line. The same cycle that kept repeating for generations, lost its hold over you in that single moment. You may not realize how powerful that decision was. You simply acted according to conviction, following the whisper of peace rather than the voice of habit. Yet in the unseen, it was like a lightning strike, cutting through centuries of repetition. What others before you could not overcome: anger, addiction, fear, rejection, poverty, self-doubt. You just confronted with one act of obedience. Heaven sees obedience not as a single event, but as a doorway. You walked through a door today, and on the other side of it stands freedom for many who will come after you. God doesn't just redeem individuals, He redeems bloodlines. When one person chooses light, it casts redemption backward and forward through time. Think of your life as a tree, its roots stretching deep into history. For years, those roots have absorbed the pain, the habits, the curses of those who came before. But today, you allowed heaven to plant something new at the base, a seed of holiness that will grow upward and outward, producing fruit that tastes like peace instead of pain. What you did was not just for you. Heaven has appointed you as a breaker, one who cuts through old limitations and establishes new patterns of grace. You are the one who said, "No more." You are the one who ended what others endured. You are the hinge on which the future turns. When you forgave the unforgivable, heaven recorded it as deliverance. When you refused to repeat your parents' mistakes, heaven marked it as transformation. When you stopped chasing validation and started seeking truth, you shifted the spiritual DNA of your lineage. You are proof that the curse is broken. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 6. "But showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments." Oh, that promise is alive in you right now. The 1,000 generations begin again with your yes. You've rewritten the story, not by force, but by faith. What was once a legacy of fear becomes a legacy of faith. What was once a story of striving becomes a story of surrender. Chosen one. Breaking cycles is never easy. It feels lonely because the road you walk has never been walked before in your family. You've had to fight invisible wars that others didn't even recognize existed. The tears you cried were not just yours, they were the release of generations. Every prayer you whispered carried the voices of those who came before, longing for freedom but never finding it. You are the answer to prayers that your ancestors couldn't form with words. You are the one chosen to carry redemption into your bloodline. And the cost, the loneliness, the misunderstanding, the resistance was not punishment. It was proof that you were the one strong enough to bear the breakthrough. What you changed today may seem small, a conversation you handled differently, a temptation you resisted, a habit you finally released, but heaven saw the tremor spread through time. The past sighed in relief. The future opened like a sunrise. Heaven's laughter from earlier now rolls like thunder across generations, proclaiming, "It is finished in this family." 1. You are the hinge that closed the door on bondage and opened the gate to blessing. From this day forward, things will not continue as they did. The same storms that swept through your lineage will lose direction. The same lies that ran through generations will meet silence. The same shame that clung to your name will dissolve in light. You didn't just make a good choice, you made a holy one. Heaven's records now carry a new headline under your name: Breaker of Chains, Restorer of Generations. So, when the old patterns try to whisper again, remember this moment. You already chose differently. You already shifted history. You already stepped into the divine inheritance that those before you never reached. And from now on, every step you take carries the weight of that victory. You are no longer walking in reaction to what was. You are walking in revelation of what can be. The chains are gone. The echo has changed. And your name resounds in heaven as one who broke through when you smiled today. Chosen one truly smiled. Something invisible moved. Heaven saw it. You thought it was just a moment of relief, a small exhale after days of pressure. But when peace crossed your face, armies in heaven responded. You didn't know that your calm carried command, that your serenity signaled to angels, the light still reigns here. Your smile, your peace, your refusal to be pulled into the storm that was spiritual warfare at its highest form. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't fight with words. You simply stood still and let heaven fight for you. The silence that followed was not weakness, it was authority. Because peace is not passive, it is power wrapped in stillness. When you choose peace, you announce to the universe that chaos no longer has permission to rule over you. And today, when you chose peace even for a moment, heaven smiled with you. The smile that rose on your lips became the reflection of God's own joy. There's a reason the enemy tries to steal your peace first, because peace is proof of dominion. He knows that as long as you stay calm, you stay connected. The moment you rest in God, you rise above the reach of darkness. That's why your peace terrifies him. It proves that nothing he does can separate you from divine trust. Your smile was more than emotion, it was intercession. When you laughed lightly through pain, heaven heard victory. Angels were dispatched, not with swords, but with songs. They moved in rhythm with your peace, shielding your mind and guarding your heart. You may not have seen them, but they surrounded you, forming a fortress that no accusation could penetrate. The world looks for evidence of strength in noise, but heaven looks for it in composure. True warriors don't always roar, sometimes they rest. And that's what you did today. You stood still when you could have reacted. You smiled when bitterness tried to return. That smile became a command in the spirit realm. Be still. I know who my God is. And the Word of God declares in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 7, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." That peace, the one no one understands, that's the force that went to work today. It guarded you like a shield, kept you from saying what you'd regret, kept you from acting outside your character. Peace wrapped itself around you, invisible but impenetrable. And when you smiled, the atmosphere shifted. Arguments lost their power. Negativity couldn't find a doorway. Even those near you felt something soften, but couldn't explain why. That's the influence of a soul aligned with heaven. You became a vessel of divine calm, and your very presence became a sanctuary for others. You see, peace isn't pretending everything's fine. It's proclaiming that even if it isn't, God still reigns. You didn't need everything to be perfect to smile. You just needed to remember that the one who holds your future never loses control. That kind of confidence can't be taught. It's born from walking through storms and realizing you never drowned. Heaven's laughter today wasn't distant. It joined your own. When you smiled, heaven mirrored it, celebrating how far you've come. There were days when you couldn't smile at all. There were seasons when even breathing felt heavy. And yet now, after all of that, you found peace enough to smile again. That is resurrection. That is revival. You've become dangerous to darkness because you've learned to stay peaceful in warfare. You've learned that panic is not your language anymore, praise is. You've learned that even silence can be a song if your heart is steady in trust. So let this be your declaration right now. Not just in words, but in spirit. Comment, peace reigns. Write it as a reminder to yourself and to every unseen force that watches that you are no longer mastered by storms. You are the calm in the middle of them. The peace of God reigns in you, through you, around you. It rules your home, your mind, your emotions, your atmosphere. Your smile wasn't small today. Chosen one. It was the opening of heaven's gate. It was the signal that the battle has already turned in your favor. And from this day forward, every time peace sits on your face, know this: the armies of heaven are standing behind it, ensuring that nothing will ever steal it again. Chosen one. What you whispered today reached farther than you think. You didn't shout. You didn't post it for the world to see. You simply spoke from your heart a few trembling words that slipped between sighs, and heaven heard it louder than thunder. That's the mystery of prayer. The quieter it is on earth, the louder it echoes in heaven. You thought it was just a whisper, but in the spiritual realm, your voice became a signal flare. Angels paused to listen. The Father leaned close. The silence of your surroundings only made your words shine brighter. The prayer of the broken carries a fragrance that fills heaven's chambers. Sometimes you think prayer has to sound strong, polished, poetic, but God doesn't need volume. He needs honesty. He doesn't require performance. He seeks presence. Your whisper today carried more power than 1,000 shouted prayers because it was born from sincerity, not ceremony. The heavens are not moved by eloquence, but by authenticity. When your whisper carried surrender, when you said, God, I still trust you. Even after everything, heaven responded instantly. You might not have seen results yet, but the shift has already begun. Your words traveled faster than sound, weaving through time, touching places you'll never see. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 34, verse 17. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. That's what happened when you spoke. Your whisper reached the deliverer, and he marked it for fulfillment. It may not come in the way you expect, but it will come in the way you need, because heaven never ignores an honest heart. Your whisper today is like a seed buried in soil. You can't see it yet, but something is already growing beneath the surface. The roots are taking hold, quietly, invisibly, and soon, that small seed of faith will push through the dirt of delay and bloom into something you could never have imagined. Chosen one. Your whisper carries weight because it comes from a heart that's been refined. Every season of silence taught you to speak differently. You no longer pray from fear, you pray from trust. You don't beg for miracles, you breathe in alignment. And that kind of prayer changes everything because it moves both heaven and earth. Imagine a candle in a dark room. It doesn't scream at the darkness to leave, it simply burns. That's what your prayer does. It burns quietly, steadily, lighting the unseen corners of your destiny. The world may overlook you, but heaven cannot ignore that glow. Your words are not wasted. Your whispers build bridges where walls once stood. They summon light into places that have known only shadow. Every syllable of faith is a hammer striking at the chains that once held you. And though you may not hear it yet, heaven is already orchestrating your answer behind the scenes. If these words reach your spirit, if something in you recognizes this truth, let your heart move with gratitude. And if you feel led, Let your response become part of heaven's ripple. When you like this message, you're not just clicking, you're amplifying the light. When you share it, you become a messenger, sending hope into someone else's storm. And if you subscribe, you're saying, keep me connected to this river. Because this isn't just content, it's living water. Every word is a current of encouragement meant to meet you in your journey. And yes, if you ever feel stirred to donate, know this: your giving is not a transaction, it's participation. You become part of heaven's echo. Every gift becomes a bridge, carrying this message into new hearts, new languages, new nations. You water the same soil that once watered you, but never feel pressured. Let it come from the same place. Your prayer came from quiet sincerity, because heaven measures not the size of the act, but the purity of intention. A small seed given with love can feed 1,000 souls in eternity. Your whisper started something divine today. Don't doubt it just because it feels unseen. Even the smallest breeze can stir an ocean if it's sent by heaven. You've spoken now. Watch as creation begins to respond. The heavens have already answered with a smile. The echo of your whisper is still traveling upward, gathering light as it rises. And soon, that light will return to you, not as sound, but as blessing. There is a sound that terrifies darkness. Chosen one, not the roar of thunder, not the clash of swords, but the laughter of God. You may not have heard it with your ears, but heaven resounded with it today. When you stood firm, when you refused to return to the pit you were pulled from, when you kept your heart pure in a corrupt world, God laughed. And that laughter was not amusement. It was warfare. Heaven's laughter isn't casual or careless. It's a declaration of authority. It's the sound of the Creator mocking the plans of his enemies. It's the sound that says, "No weapon formed against this one shall prosper." Every time God laughs, something in the realm of darkness collapses. And today, his laughter was over you. There was a moment earlier when despair tried to whisper again. It told you you're not enough, that your progress doesn't matter, that maybe your faith was a waste. But before you could even form a reply, heaven's laughter rolled like thunder across eternity. Because the enemy's accusations always arrive too late. The verdict has already been spoken. You belong to the Lord. You've wondered why the attacks sometimes intensify right after you make progress. It's because the enemy panics at every sign of your growth. Hell doesn't fight what doesn't threaten it. Every step you take toward obedience shakes something loose in the unseen. Every act of faith sends tremors into territory once claimed by darkness. The laughter of God today silenced voices that were sent to discourage you. It wasn't the laughter of mockery, but of finality. It was heaven saying, "Enough. My child will not be touched." No, remember, chosen one. When God laughs, creation responds. Mountains tremble, chains fall, shadows retreat. And it's not because he's mocking the weak. It's because he knows his victory is unstoppable. You are part of that victory. The same power that raised Christ from the grave now pulses through your spirit. That's why hell trembles when you rise. Why the darkness shifts when you speak his name. You've been through seasons when heaven seemed silent, but silence never meant absence. It meant strategy. God was positioning the laughter of victory for the perfect moment. Every delay, every disappointment, every tear was collected, stored, and now poured back as joy. You may not have felt it yet, but the sound of triumph has already begun, as was spoken in the sacred texts of Job. Chapter 5, verse 22. You will laugh at destruction and famine, and need not fear the wild animals. Uplift. Those words were written for you, a promise that even in chaos, joy will be your armor. It means that no matter how fierce the storm becomes, you will not lose your song. Laughter is not denial, it's defiance. It's the refusal to let fear dictate your atmosphere. Heaven's laughter and your laughter are linked. When you laugh again, even after heartbreak, even after disappointment, you echo heaven's sound of victory. Your joy becomes a weapon sharper than any sword, confusing the enemy who expected tears and found triumph. Instead, think of it this way. Every trial you've endured was a script written by the enemy to bring shame, but God rewrote the ending. Now every accusation becomes a testimony, every scar becomes a story, and every loss becomes a lesson. Heaven laughed because the plot failed. And while you may not feel victorious yet, you are walking inside, victories unfolding. The war is not being fought for you, it's being fought through you. Every time you remain faithful, you remind hell that its time is short. Every time you forgive, you rob darkness of its oxygen. Every time you worship, you reopen heaven's gate above your life. Heaven's laughter today means your name has been spoken again in the courts of glory, not as a question, but as a proclamation. This one is mine. That declaration travels faster than any curse, louder than any lie. It seals you in divine ownership. Chosen one. Your endurance has become a soundtrack of victory. You no longer fight for approval. You fight from assurance. The outcome is already written. The laughter of God is proof that the end has been decided. The enemy can rage, but his noise cannot override heaven's joy. So walk forward now with your head lifted high. The sound of that laughter follows you. It's behind you, ahead of you, above you, within you. You are covered by a joy that cannot be taken. When others hear confusion, heaven hears harmony. When others predict failure, heaven declares fulfillment. The laughter of God is not distant anymore. It's alive in you. It's the pulse behind your courage, the rhythm beneath your steps, the melody woven through your breathing. And long after the battle ends, that laughter will still echo, eternal, victorious, unbroken, chosen one. You have no idea how far your obedience traveled today. What you did, that one act of surrender, that quiet decision to follow the whisper instead of the noise, sent ripples into the timeline of eternity. You think it ended in this moment, but heaven sees differently. The impact of obedience never stops where it begins. It moves forward like a wave, touching generations you'll never meet. You are living proof that one act of faith can rewrite entire stories. When you obeyed today, you didn't just change your own path, you realigned destinies. Heaven works through obedience like a musician plays through a single note. The vibration lingers long after the sound fades. Your yes today became a melody that heaven will replay again and again. It will echo into your children's lives, and their children's children, weaving grace into generations that don't even exist yet. What you birthed today wasn't temporary, it was eternal. You may think it was a small act, helping someone, forgiving again, stepping away from what no longer aligned with your purpose. But obedience carries prophetic power. When you obey, You allow God to move through you without resistance. You become a vessel, a channel through which heaven pours its plans into earth. That's why your obedience matters so much. It's not just about rule following, it's about releasing heaven's design. Every time you obey, light multiplies. Every time you submit, creation breathes easier. The ripple spreads farther than you can see, healing old wounds, breaking invisible curses, and opening doors you didn't even know were locked. Obedience doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels like losing. Sometimes it looks like walking away quietly when you could have stayed and argued. Sometimes it feels like being overlooked, unrecognized, forgotten. But heaven's records never miss those moments. God sees the heart that chooses alignment over applause. You have to understand, chosen one, obedience is not a transaction, it's transformation. When you obey, something in you becomes more like Him. You stop fighting for control and start flowing in peace. The very atmosphere around you changes because your spirit has learned to trust. And trust is the highest form of worship. It's saying, God, even if I don't understand, I'll still move. When you say move, that is the kind of obedience that shifts time itself. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 6, in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. End quote. That's exactly what heaven did today. Your path, once tangled with confusion and delay, has been straightened. Doors that refused to open before will now respond to your steps. People who once misunderstood you will begin to see you differently, because obedience not only changes direction, it changes perception. You might not see the full harvest yet, but it's already growing. Heaven has a way of letting obedience mature quietly, like fruit ripening on a hidden branch. You'll look back one day and realize that today's yes unlocked tomorrow's abundance. Every major move of God starts with someone's small yes. Noah built the ark because of it. Abraham left his homeland because of it. Mary carried redemption because of it. And now, in your own time, you've added your name to that lineage of obedience. Don't let the simplicity of your act deceive you. Even whispers can start revolutions when heaven breathes through them. The world may never know what you did, but heaven knows, and the ripple of your obedience will reach corners of the earth where your feet may never walk. Chosen one, you've crossed a threshold today. You've stepped into alignment with heaven's rhythm. The angels have already recorded it, and the sound of your obedience still vibrates in the unseen. You are moving in prophetic momentum now, each step divinely synchronized, each breath carrying purpose. And if your spirit recognizes that truth right now, if you can feel that something sacred just shifted, mark this moment with a prophetic act. Comment 555 below. That number carries the vibration of grace upon grace, of divine transition, of favor, expanding beyond boundaries. It means heaven is multiplying what began in secret today. Write it as a covenant, a reminder that you've entered a new phase of divine acceleration. Your obedience today was not an ending, it was ignition. The ripple has begun, and nothing in hell or earth can stop where it's headed. You've become the echo of your own yes, and heaven will keep amplifying that sound until every promise attached to your name comes alive. There is a shift in the air around you. Chosen one. Something subtle, yet unmistakable. You may not have seen the full picture, but today you stepped into a mantle you didn't even know was waiting for you. Heaven placed something on your life, a weight, an anointing, an assignment, not as a sudden surprise, but as a recognition of your readiness. What you've endured was never random, it was rehearsal for this moment. For a long time, you've carried questions like heavy stones. Why do I feel different? Why does everything seem to test me harder than others? Why do I walk roads no one else understands? Heaven smiles at those questions now, because the answer has always been simple. You were being prepared for a higher mantle. A mantle is not a garment you can buy or earn, it is entrusted. It's placed only upon those who have been refined by both fire and silence. The mantle you wear now is invisible to the world, but radiant in the spirit. It shines not because it's new, but because it has been waiting for you to grow into it. When others saw you falling, heaven saw you being fitted. When others called it failure, heaven called it formation. And now that your heart has been purified by pain, God can trust you with the kind of authority that carries mercy in every breath. You may not feel ready, that's what makes you ready. The chosen rarely feel qualified. They simply say yes and let obedience lead them into places. Courage alone could never take them. What you carry now is sacred, and heaven expects you to wear it with humility, not fear. As the prophet Elijah once cast his cloak upon Elisha, heaven has cast something upon you. It's more than responsibility, it's revelation. You are stepping into a season where your words will carry weight, where your presence will shift rooms, where your prayers will pierce through layers of resistance that once stood in your way. The ancient words recorded in the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verse 15 say, "The spirit of Elijah is resting on Elisha." Oh, in the same way, the spirit of what you've endured now rests upon you as empowerment. The pain that once pressed you down has become oil on your hands. The tears that once blurred your vision have become lenses of discernment. The scars you carry have turned into signatures of authenticity, proof that what you speak has been lived, not learned. Chosen one. Heaven never wastes experience. Every lesson, every heartbreak, every hidden night of prayer has been woven into your mantle. It's why your voice carries both fire and tenderness, because you've learned both judgment and mercy. You know what it means to be broken and healed, to be lost and found, to be silent and still heard. This mantle doesn't make you better than others. It makes you responsible for others. It means you are called to carry light where others carry confusion. It means you are to serve, not be served. It means your authority flows through compassion, not control. The true sign of a mantle is not dominance, but devotion. You've been asking God for promotion, but what He gave you was a mantle, something heavier, holier, and infinitely more meaningful. Promotions change titles, mantles change lives. A title gives you a position, but a mantle gives you permission. Permission to walk into dark places and still carry light. To speak where others stay silent. To lift when others let go. And make no mistake, this mantle didn't arrive overnight. It was forged in the seasons when you felt forgotten. Every hidden year, every delayed answer, every unanswered prayer was part of the weaving. Heaven needed to be sure that your heart could hold what your destiny demanded. Now, you stand in a new spiritual posture, not striving, not proving, just being. You don't have to chase opportunities anymore. They will recognize the anointing on your life and come to you. The mantle draws what matches it, so wear it with grace. Don't shrink back when people don't understand it. Some will question the change in you. Others will resist it. But those who carry the mantle never fit comfortably into the old spaces. You weren't designed to. You were meant to disturb darkness simply by walking in light. The mantle doesn't make life easier, it makes it eternal. Every step you take now echoes in realms beyond time. Every word you speak under this anointing becomes seed for generations. You are walking proof that pain births purpose and that surrender invites glory. Heaven has placed something upon your shoulders today that will not lift, not because it's a burden, but because it's identity. You are now clothed in calling, wrapped in purpose, sealed with the authority of one who has been tested and found faithful, chosen one. The way you responded to pressure revealed everything. Heaven already knew who you were, but today the world caught a glimpse of it too. You didn't react in anger. You didn't run to defend yourself. You stood still, not out of pride, but out of peace. And that stillness spoke louder than any argument could. What happened today was not random, it was revelation. Pressure always reveals ownership. When the fire comes, what doesn't belong to God burns away. What remains is the mark of divine ownership, the unmistakable sign that your life no longer belongs to chaos, fear, or pride. It belongs to Him. You've been through enough refining to understand this truth. The mark of heaven is not perfection, but peace. It's not loud or showy. It's quiet authority. When storms rise and your soul stays anchored, that's proof of ownership. When everything around you shakes but you remain rooted, heaven whispers, "This one is mine." And there's something different about you now. The old restlessness is gone. You no longer chase validation or fight for visibility. You move with the rhythm of one who knows they are seen by heaven. You've stopped trying to prove yourself and started living from identity. That's how sons and daughters walk, not striving for belonging, but carrying it. You see, divine ownership is not a cage. It's freedom. It means you don't have to control outcomes anymore. It means you can trust that whatever touches your life has already passed through God's hands first. It means you can breathe. Even when you don't understand, you are held, covered, and claimed. There was a moment not long ago when doubt tried to crawl back in the old fear, whispering, "What if you're on your own?" But even then, heaven marked you again. Ownership isn't proven by how loud your faith sounds, but by how deeply it endures in silence. You've been branded with the unshakable truth that you are not your mistakes. You are not your past. You are not your fears. You are God's. And that mark is visible to every realm, seen by angels as a sign of belonging and feared by demons as a seal of protection. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 1. "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine." End quote. That is the inscription written across your spirit. You have been summoned, called not just to live, but to represent heaven. Every step you take now carries that signature. Every choice you make confirms who owns your heart. There's something sacred about being claimed by God. It doesn't make you untouchable, but it makes you unstoppable. Trials will still come, but they can't destroy what heaven protects. You may walk through fire, but the flames will only refine the shine of your calling. Look back for a moment every time you thought you'd reached the end. He stepped in. Every time something tried to consume you, It only revealed how covered you truly were. That's the mark of divine ownership. You were never abandoned. You were being refined under watchful eyes. Ownership also means alignment. You can feel it now, the way certain things no longer fit. Certain places no longer call to you. Certain people no longer understand you. It's not rejection, it's redirection. Heaven is tailoring your life to fit the new garment of purpose that's been placed on you. You've been set apart, not set aside. God didn't remove you from old circles to isolate you. He repositioned you to illuminate new ones. And the way you respond to this transition will determine how far the light travels through you. You're learning to carry yourself differently now. You speak slower, love deeper, listen more. You've traded defensiveness for discernment. You've stopped fighting to be understood and started resting in the peace of being known. That's what ownership does. It gives you quiet confidence. The mark of divine ownership also means that your life is no longer random. Even your mistakes are being recycled for glory. Every wrong turn is redirected toward redemption. Heaven doesn't just restore it, repurposes. And you, chosen one, have become a living example of that truth. So when people look at you and can't explain the resilience, the grace, the serenity, let them wonder. They are seeing the imprint of heaven's hand upon your life. You are not who you used to be. And that's not arrogance, that's transformation. The fingerprints of God are now visible on everything you touch. And from this day forward, when storms come, remember this: ownership means assurance. You don't have to fear what tomorrow holds, because you know who holds tomorrow. You are sealed, protected, and claimed. The mark of heaven rests on you, and nothing in earth or hell can erase it. Chosen one, something sacred happened today. God's laughter, that deep, victorious sound that shakes creation, didn't just echo from heaven this time. It echoed through you. You became the instrument of His joy. Every step you took in obedience, every breath you gave in trust, became part of heaven's melody of triumph. The laughter that began above the stars has now reached your soul. You may not realize it, but when you smiled in peace after all the storms you've endured, heaven smiled with you. That harmony between divine joy and human endurance, that's what victory sounds like. God's laughter is not the laughter of mockery, it's the sound of completed promises. It's what heaven releases when battles end. You, chosen one, have endured enough nights of wrestling, enough seasons of silence, enough tests of patience, and now you've stepped into the rhythm of rejoicing. You are the sound of answered prayer. You are the proof that what the enemy meant for destruction became a doorway to destiny. Every wound became wisdom. Every loss became leverage. Every disappointment became direction. That's why heaven laughs, because nothing, not even pain, could stop the purpose written in your name. It's time to see yourself differently. You are not standing on ruins anymore. You're standing on a foundation built from everything you survived. Those ashes under your feet aren't reminders of failure. They're evidence of fire that refined you. You carry heaven's laughter now like a torch. And wherever you walk, despair loses its hold. As the prophet wrote in Psalms, chapter 30, verse 11, "You turned my mourning into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy." That is the exchange that just happened. God has taken the garments of sorrow off your shoulders and replaced them with robes of celebration. And your joy quiet, resilient, sacred is the sound hell fears most, because joy is the anthem of the undefeated. You've been faithful in the quiet places. You've chosen peace when chaos begged for attention. You've forgiven when bitterness would have been easier. That's why heaven entrusted you with laughter. It's not just joy, it's justice. It's divine payback for every tear you cried in secret. Chosen one. What you carry now isn't just for you. When you laugh again, when you find beauty again, when you dream again, others watching, you will begin to heal too. Your victory will become their permission to hope. You are not merely celebrating, you are interceding through joy. And if this message speaks to the very core of your being, if you can feel the light rising again inside you, then let that light move outward. The simplest act can carry eternity's weight. When you like this message, it's more than a gesture. It's like striking a match in a darkened room, letting the flame spread to those still wandering. When you share it, you become heaven's messenger, the one carrying light into another soul's midnight. You never know whose despair might be interrupted because you passed forward what once healed you. When you subscribe, you're stepping into a continuing flow of these divine reminders, a stream of words meant to keep your faith alive when the noise of the world gets loud again. And yes, if you feel led to donate, do it not as an obligation, but as a sacred offering. Think of it like planting seeds in the soil of souls, seeds that will bloom in unseen hearts across nations. Every act of generosity extends the reach of this message to someone praying for a sign. But the truest offering you can give is your joy. When you laugh again, when you refuse to let bitterness win, you preach the gospel without words. You become the sermon. And if these words resonate in your heart right now, take a moment to mark it. Comment, "Joy wins," not just as a phrase, but as prophecy. Let the world, the heavens, and even your own doubts hear it. Joy has triumphed. God's laughter is now your anthem. Every heartbeat carries it. Every breath releases it. You are no longer just surviving, you are singing. The sound of your joy is rewriting the atmosphere around you, filling it with divine resonance. And as long as that laughter remains, darkness will never again have the final word. Chosen one. Something irreversible has begun. You have crossed a threshold that cannot be uncrossed. Step through a door that will not close behind you. You are walking in prophetic momentum now, a flow that doesn't depend on emotion, on motivation, or even on perfect understanding. It is heaven's wind pushing you forward, gently but firmly, into alignment with everything written about you before time began. There was a moment, subtle but sacred, when heaven shifted your season. You may not have felt it, but the atmosphere around your spirit changed. The resistance that once held you no longer fits. The chains that once defined you have fallen off quietly. You are lighter, freer, more in tune with what is eternal. Prophetic momentum is not speed, it's direction. It's not chaos, it's orchestration. Everything that once seemed scattered is now being gathered. Every delay is revealing its purpose. You've moved from waiting for miracles to becoming one. The same grace that sustained you through the wilderness is now empowering you to build, to create, to move. What once felt like endless preparation is turning into divine acceleration. You will notice things beginning to align, conversations that happen at the right moment, doors that open with ease, opportunities that feel tailored to your purpose. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Heaven's clock is striking your appointed hour. For years you were learning the rhythm of surrender. Now you are learning the rhythm of fulfillment. The stillness that once felt like silence has become symphony. Heaven's timing is catching up with your faith. And the promises that once seemed distant are approaching like dawn. As was spoken in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 22, the least of you will become 1,000, the smallest a mighty nation. I am the Lord. In its time, I will do this swiftly. You waited, and the appointed time has arrived. What lingered has matured. What tarried now travels toward you with divine velocity. The prophetic word that once rested over your life like a cloud is now beginning to rain. The drought is breaking, not because you demanded it, but because heaven has decided it is time. Chosen one. Momentum is not something you create. It's something you yield to. You no longer have to force the outcome or chase validation. Your only task is to stay aligned, to keep your heart uncluttered and your spirit sensitive. Heaven's wind knows exactly where to take you. You've been through the slow seasons, the ones where time crawled and prayers echoed unanswered. But all along, something was forming in the unseen, like roots deepening underground before the tree bursts through the soil. Heaven was strengthening your foundation. Now that strength will bear visible fruit, there will be acceleration. But it won't exhaust you. It will feel like grace catching you mid-stride, like a current carrying you faster than you thought you could go. You'll realize that favor doesn't require striving. It responds to surrender. And because your heart has learned how to rest, heaven can now trust you to run. Prophetic momentum will draw you into divine encounters, unexpected meetings. Sudden inspiration. Moments when words flow through you with clarity beyond your years. You'll notice how peace follows your obedience. How opportunities find you instead of you chasing them. You're no longer trying to build something for God. You're moving in what He's already building through you. And yes, there will still be challenges. Momentum doesn't erase warfare, it exposes new territory. But this time, your posture is different. You're not fighting to survive, you're reigning to establish. You've learned to discern attacks not as obstacles, but as confirmation that you've entered new ground. There's a new authority in your voice now. When you speak, things shift. Not because you've gained confidence in yourself, but because you've gained conviction in the one who sent you. You've become a vessel through which heaven flows effortlessly, not striving, not forcing. Just being. Look at your journey. Every loss, every delay, every tear was not wasted. They all built the infrastructure for this acceleration. You were being tuned for this exact rhythm, the divine syncopation between heaven's heartbeat and your obedience. You will begin to sense divine nudges, gentle prompts that lead you into new spaces. Don't second-guess them. Heaven's guidance in this season will feel like intuition, but it's revelation. You'll feel the pull toward unfamiliar territory, and that's how you'll know it's God. Destiny never calls you backward. You are moving from promise to manifestation, from preparation to participation. Heaven's script is unfolding line by line, and you are no longer a spectator. You are the instrument playing in harmony with divine design. Chosen one. The old pace has ended. You are no longer trudging through delay. You are gliding on destiny. Every step is guided, every breath anointed. The momentum carrying you now cannot be interrupted, because it was written before the foundation of the world. This is not the end of your story, it's the acceleration of it. The season of waiting has served its purpose. Now the wind of fulfillment blows behind you, whispering the same phrase heaven has repeated since creation began: move forward. For it is time, chosen one. Heaven's laughter still echoes, but now it has settled into something deeper, a triumphant peace. A holy silence filled with joy, too great for words. What began as a whisper of obedience has become a symphony of victory. The same heaven that once watched you crawl through shadows now watches you walk in glory. The sound that fills eternity right now is God's laughter, not distant, not detached, but overflowing with delight, because His plan through you has prevailed. You may not realize how significant this day is. You didn't just please heaven, you fulfilled prophecy. Every act of surrender, every quiet, yes, every unseen moment of endurance brought you here. Heaven's laughter is no longer just over you, it's within you. You've become part of the divine joy, a vessel through which God celebrates His own victory. It's strange, isn't it? You once thought that victory would feel loud, dramatic, like the sound of trumpets. Instead, it feels like rest, like the deep inhale after a long climb, when you realize you've reached the top and the air is thin but sacred. That's what this is. You've reached a spiritual summit. Heaven isn't calling you to strive anymore, it's calling you to stay. Because victory isn't just about arrival, it's about residence. You're learning how to live in triumph, not chase it. The same faith that got you here will now keep you here. Grounded, grateful, glowing. The voice of heaven resounds through the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 17. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In His love, He will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. End of. That's the sound that surrounds you now. Divine rejoicing, not judgment, not reprimand, but song. The one who once wept over humanity now sings over His chosen. You have moved from trial to testimony, from wilderness to wonder. You are standing inside fulfillment, and heaven is singing your name in melody with grace. When God laughs, darkness loses its vocabulary. The accusations fall silent. The plans of hell lose their shape. And the universe itself seems to bow under the weight of that holy sound. His laughter isn't random, it is justice. It's heaven's declaration that redemption has completed its work in you. You see, victory isn't only measured by what you've gained, it's revealed by what no longer controls you. Look back. The fears that once dictated your steps are powerless now. The voices that used to haunt your nights have faded. The burdens that once crushed you have been replaced by lightness, not because the world changed, but because you did. The battle ended, not when the enemy fell, but when peace entered you. There's a new radiance on your life. It's not showy, it's steady. You walk differently now, not hurried, not anxious, but anchored. You've learned that the presence of God isn't something you chase, it's something you carry. Wherever you go, heaven follows. Because heaven has made its home in you. The laughter of God in you is quiet power. It changes the atmosphere without needing words. It disarms conflict. It breaks tension. It invites light into weary hearts. You have become a living echo of that laughter. proof that divine joy can dwell in human vessels. Every step you take now is part of a larger song, a melody that began before creation and will never end. You are not just surviving history, you are helping heaven write it. Each moment of grace you choose, each act of love you give, adds a note to that eternal music. The journey ahead won't be without challenge, but you'll face it differently. You no longer fight for victory, you fight from victory. You're not asking for proof anymore, you are the proof. The peace you carry now is louder than any testimony you could speak, and heaven's laughter, that radiant sound, will go with you. It will echo in the places you walk, linger in the rooms you leave, and vibrate through the people who encounter your spirit. You've become a living reminder that joy is stronger than sorrow, that grace outruns guilt, and that light never stops expanding once it's been released. So walk boldly into the days ahead. The page is turning, but the story doesn't end. It continues through your steps, through your words, through your light. The laughter of God will be the rhythm beneath your journey, guiding you through seasons you haven't yet imagined. You've made heaven laugh not at you, but because of you. You've become the reason joy exists in the courts of eternity today. You are the answered prayer, the fulfilled prophecy, the reflection of divine victory. The heavens are silent now, not because they've stopped speaking, but because their message is complete. The work is finished. The story is sealed. The laughter of God rings through all creation, declaring once and for all, the chosen one has overcome. Chosen one. If these words have reached you, if something deep within you stirred, if you felt heaven breathe through these pages, then pause for a moment. Let the silence after this message become sacred. You've just journeyed through 17 movements of divine revelation, each one crafted to awaken the truth of who you are. Chosen, refined, unstoppable, loved. Now, let this not be an ending, but a continuation. The same voice that found you here will keep speaking, in whispers, in nudges, in unexpected peace. The laughter of God that once echoed above you now lives within you. Carry it, guard it, share it. And if this message has blessed you, allow that blessing to ripple outward. When you like this message, you are not merely reacting, you're acknowledging heaven's word over your life. When you share it, you become the bridge through which hope travels to someone still standing in the dark. You never know whose breakthrough might begin because you passed forward what once healed you. Take a moment to comment below. Speak what resonated with you, or simply write a phrase that captures your spirit right now. Your words will become part of the tapestry of light this message weaves across the world. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Stay connected to this flow of prophetic truth, because these words aren't entertainment, they're nourishment. Each new message is another flame to keep your spirit burning bright. Go now, chosen one, with laughter in your heart and light in your steps. The story continues through you. Heaven is still smiling,